We'll get back to the congressman now to finish that conversation. And Congressman Steven Palazzo from Biloxi on break, back home. What's the number one thing, Stephen, they're talking about when you talk to your constituents?
Yeah, well, Paul, first of all, we're not on break. We're back home working. We're just taking a break from Washington.
I understand that, and I think people understand.
So many people think we're down here, going golfing and on fishing trips, but myself, I've got 2 weeks at Camp Shelby doing my annual training, and then I'm traveling the district meeting with constituents. But the number one thing on my constituents' minds, unless you bring up something else, it's all about the economy and it's about jobs. Yeah. But it's really what people are talking about right now is defunding Obamacare. And I think everybody that was elected in 2010, especially the Republicans, we all had a mandate. I know I had a mandate from Mississippi to do everything I possibly could to stop this damaging law from going into effect. As of last Friday, I voted 40 times to repeal it, dismantle it, replace it, delay it, and now it's time to defund it. I've even introduced my constitutional amendment that would permanently protect the American people from these, what I consider unconstitutional mandate taxes, like Obamacare's individual mandate. It would rip the heart out of Obamacare. And I believe this is a fight worth fighting for, and that's why I'm calling on my colleagues across the country to come together in this fight. Join me, stand strong, stand together, and let's defund Obamacare.
Okay, let's get back to the question I asked you prior to the news break. Because the reports were out on the Sunday talking shows from Pat Caddell and many others and Chris Wallace, and they were talking about this, that did John Boehner actually cut a deal with the president and says, look, you guys will get waivers because we knew the news, and here's the story. The White House has approved a deal that will create a regulatory fix for members of Congress and their staff related to some of the provisions in the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, according to media reports. Under the law, popularly referred to as Obamacare, lawmakers and their aides were required to source health insurance created by the law and offer through one of the exchanges. And without the subsidies they currently have, the members of Congress would have faced thousands of dollars in additional premiums each year. The Office of Personnel Management now plans to rule the government can continue to make a contribution to the health care premiums of lawmakers. In other words, you guys in Congress apparently have a fix as far as a waiver. Now, and I'm not blaming any specific person on this. I'm just saying, what's the status? What have you been told as far as your requirements to have the same insurance program that your constituents have?
Well, Paul, as of Friday, I'm under the assumption that come January 2014, I'm going to be on Obamacare, as will my staff, and as they should be. We should not allow special interests, whether it's the U.S. Congress or these professional staffers, which I believe has gotten us in a lot of the trouble that we're in today, these armies of unelected bureaucrats that are in Washington, D.C., but this is a perfect example of why we have to defund Obamacare, not just a fix here or a fix there, because all that is special interest groups lobbying every day to secure a fix for a small part. There is no fix for this law. And Congress needs to suffer, as well as their staff, as well as the committee staff, because they're the ones that introduced this bill. They're the ones that drafted this bill. They're the ones that passed this bill before I got elected to Congress. And this Obamacare is bad for individuals, it's bad for families, it's bad for seniors, and it's bad for business. And nothing has changed. It's going to destroy Medicare. It's going to take over 1/6 of the economy. It's going to basically, it's a lot like socialism, Paul. How do you take control of the everyday lives of Americans? Well, you figure out what's very important to them, what's very close to them. Well, in America, it's our health care. It's the fact that, we have children that we want to be able to provide access to doctors, and we want affordable health care. So what's the best way to really get control of the American people? We'll take control of their health.
Well, we know
that's exactly what Obamacare is.
We're all in outside Washington scared to death because we've seen some of the rates on here in Ohio and places such as that, and even in Mississippi. And we know even with the government subsidy, it's still going to be at least 2 or 3 times higher in some cases. And if you're lucky enough to make over $50,000 a year, household included, you're really going to be tagged on this thing. So, it is the proverbial train wreck. But as far as Boehner, not appointing a select committee or a panel to do any investigations in some of these scandals, so-called scandals out there. And I don't think they're so-called scandals; they are scandals. Your thoughts on that? Because apparently the word is that the Republicans are so divided in Congress. That's the only thing that the president has going for him.
Well, Paul, I haven't heard anything about that. And put it this way: if that's true, it's totally unacceptable with me. And Boehner may have signed his own, letter of termination if he did something of that egregious against the Republicans who have supported select committee on the Benghazi deaths. I'm one of those people, original co-signer on the letter requesting the Speaker to set up a bipartisan select committee, because we need answers. The American people need answers to all these scandals. You can't just come up and apologize. You say, listen, oh yeah, we were targeting Americans. We're sorry. Oh yeah, we were doing this. We're sorry. The people need to be fired. The American people have to be able to regain their trust. And if Boehner did this, Boehner needs to go home.
I haven't heard of, well, that's true. I haven't heard a lot of apologies. The thing that we heard, even in the radio address over the weekend, was this. Turn it up, Perez.
Too often over the past 2 years, Washington has taken its eye off the ball. They've allowed an endless parade of political posturing and phony scandals to distract from growing our economy and strengthening the middle class.
So you people are responsible for the economy not growing because you keep talking about these phony scandals. That's the president's address. And then he goes and plays golf at Camp David, apparently. So I don't know. It's not good news in Washington, D.C.
Well, he definitely has a charmed life, but I think he's got the pulpit. He's got the liberal, radical left media that just constantly bombards the American people, thinking the Republicans are the obstructionists. We're the only ones would have planned to balance the budget. Yep. We're the only ones would have planned to reform the tax code, grow the economy, lift up all the American people. But like you just said, that if you're fortunate enough to make over $50,000 a year, you're going to get hammered under Obamacare. See, this is the thing. The liberals don't want you making more than $50,000. They want you to turn to the government for everything. And some real life examples is I know small businesses right now, their premiums for their health care that they provide their employees has gone up 80 to 100%. People are being told that they have good, stable jobs right now. Single moms are being told that you can no longer work 40 hours. You're going to have to go part-time, meaning they're going to have to go find 2 or 3 more jobs to bring in the income so they can support their families, all the while gas is going up.
Why isn't that resonating with the American people, though? Because I have a theory that you guys have got to be able to put this down as far as the rate increases, what it does to young people, what's happening to our military. You've got to put this down in kindergarten, number 2 lead pencil, big print, simple, 5 to 10, 15 seconds, be able to grasp it. If not, the American people will never get it, and we got to find a way to get it out there in a repetitive form to balance what's going on the other networks. But it's devastating what's happening, what's happening, and what's going to happen to the young people in this country.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think employers need to share their stories with their employees. As a former small business owner, I can tell you I paid myself last. I always took care of my employees. But it's gotten to the point to where the economy is so bad. And I know there's some people who are doing okay, but overall, wages have been flat, and everything else is going up. And you have to share those with your employee, help educate them in what's really going on, because you're the one that you see it in your financial statements every day. You don't have to talk about the politics. I had somebody the other day.
You don't have to tell us that. We all know that. I do have a couple of other things here before I let you go. But
absolutely.
Number one is, what is this doing as far as on the coast to Ingalls and to our infrastructure, our military infrastructure, which is a lot of jobs here in the state of Mississippi? What are you seeing on this?
Overall, the economy, sequestration, what are we?
All of it, as far as what plans this administration has on the table, the sequestration, and as far as the military infrastructure, it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
I think it's a lot like, and it sounds gruesome, it's like slicing your wrist with a razor. It's going to be a slow bleed that's going to lead to a slow degradation of our readiness, our recruitment, our retention. It's not going to be immediate, but it's coming. After we just talked about the world becoming such a dangerous place where people are hell-bent on killing Americans and destroying our American way of life, we're already seeing training budgets decrease, which is going to lead to ultimately a lack of readiness. And so when the next big event happens, and it's going to happen, we're going to send our young men and women back overseas under-equipped, under-trained, just as we've done after every other large engagement. When we strip the military to the bare bones, we're going to send them over there. It's going to cost us a lot more in blood, and it's going to cost us a lot more in treasure defending our country. And when it really does hit, it's going to be a ripple effect across the nation. Every industry, government, private industry, everybody is going to feel this. It's going to be devastating. But again, I feel like this is something that this president really has embraced, his radical agenda, and he's constantly trying to distract the American people because of his failed policy.
When the top stories coming out of military are not refinement or ingenuity or new technology, but we're hiring atheist chaplain, we're doing affirmative action on training women soldiers and making sure we move in lesbians and gays and they're not besmirched. That's the news coming out of our military. We do have problems.
That's the Pentagon and this president. That is not our rank and file men and women.
I understand that. Listen, as always, thank you. We are so excited because soon we will be down at WOSM as part of the family and covering all of the Gulf Coast, and looking forward to that. Back with more in a moment.